Hi, welcome back to Randy Fujishin's Gifts from the Heart. Um, Last video we went over gift number 5 or chapter number 5, asking questions, giving the gift of edifying and positive questions to help people explore solutions and their thinking and to connect with them on an emotional level, and feeling questions and content questions and all that kind of stuff. So this is gift number 6 or chapter number 6. This is going to be flowing with conflict. Conflict is an inevitable part of any relationship, and if you are looking to strengthen a relationship or move past conflict, this is a great chapter for that, flowing with conflict. And it starts with a quote from Lao Tzu: "The hard and the strong will fall, the soft and the weak will overcome." As strawberry farmers in rural California, my mom and dad didn't have much time to explore the rolling foothills behind our house, wade through the muddy creek in search for frogs, or just sit against the trunk of an oak tree and watch the wind move silently through the summer grass. My mom and dad didn't always have the time, but I did. Events of childhood are stored up deep within the soul, and their influence is felt in adulthood, often beneath the veil of consciousness. Memories, both joyous and sad, soothing and bitter, can tell us who we are. One such memory for me occurred in my 7th year. My mom and dad were eating breakfast at the kitchen table in the quiet of the morning, long before sunrise. My 4 younger sisters were still asleep, but I was awake. From my bed, I could see down the hallway into the kitchen where my parents were talking. Dad looked upset as he whispered to my mom across the little table. Although I couldn't hear the conversation, I could tell they were having a disagreement. After talking for a while, my mom smiled, got up from her chair, and walked over to my father. She hugged him from behind as he laughed softly. This was not an isolated incident. That's how my parents handled their differences. The dance was usually the same: whispering over morning coffee, a hug, and then laughter. I grew up thinking all parents resolved conflict that way until I noticed my friends' parents often handled their differences in hurtful ways. Some yelled, some pouted, some cursed, and one man hit his wife. My eyes were opened as I observed other parents handle their conflicts. In junior high school, I remember asking my mom if she and dad ever fought with raised voices or fists. "No," she told me. "I always have a choice when differences arise with your dad. I can become harder or I can become softer. Marriage is a long haul," she continued, "and I decided during our first years together that I didn't want to harden, so I chose to soften and flow." Wow, that's pretty good. In any relationship, whether it is with a romantic partner, a family member, or a friend, conflict will inevitably arise. Conflict is any disagreement over 2 or more options. Conflict can be over where to go to lunch, how many kids to have, or the best way to get out of debt. Conflict is to be expected in any relationship. It is natural. The closer you get to another human being, the more conflict you experience. As you become more open and honest in any relationship, the differences between you and your loved one become more apparent. The areas of disagreement come to the surface, and you are confronted with the fact that this other person does not think, believe, feel, and behave exactly the way you do. He or she is not you. When differences arise, whether serious or not, some people react with raised voices while others choose to whisper. Some blame while others choose to explore. Some hit while others choose to listen. Some joke while others choose to brainstorm. How you decide to handle differences that eventually arise between you and someone you love speaks volumes about who you are and how you relate to others. What do you do when you disagree with a loved one? The answer to this question is not a simple one. An individual's response to conflict is predicated on a variety of factors: the issue, the situation, the other individuals involved, what you want from the situation, and a myriad of other variables. To complicate matters further, many unconscious factors can also influence your response, such as your family of origin, experiences, your deeper desires to control, direct, or distance yourself from the other, your emotional needs, and a host of other invisible forces. Responses to conflict. As a therapist, I have observed over the years that people take one of three characteristic stances or postures when conflict arises: fight, flight, or flow, although to varying degrees. Flight. One characteristic response to conflict is to fight. One characteristic response to conflict is to fight, where one person may blame, attack, criticize, argue, complain, find fault, or accuse. In extreme cases, he may physically harm the individual with whom he is in conflict. When he takes a fight response, his body tenses, his breathing rate increases, and his movements can become exaggerated and swift. He is physically ready to defend himself or attack the enemy. He will often see the conflict as a win-lose situation, where one person must win and the other must lose. The varieties of fight responses are many, but for our discussion, the primary characteristic you need to remember is that conflict is viewed as a fight with a winner and a loser. The individual who chooses to fight will battle with victory in mind. Flight. The second response an individual might choose in conflict is flight. The flight response can take many forms, but the goal is always the same: to avoid open conflict with another individual. The person may physically leave the room or the area of the conflict. She can also move to another town, state, or country to avoid constant conflict with a loved one. Staying away from the home, whether it is by working longer hours, going fishing, or volunteering at the Red Cross, can be another form of flight if the real purpose of such behavior is to avoid conflict. Flight can also take a more subtle form when an individual simply gives in to the demands, desires, or wishes of the other against her own preference or better judgment. Being quiet, agreeing, accommodating, placating, pleasing, enabling, appeasing, or catering to the person can be a form of conflict avoidance or taking flight. Finally, flight can take physical form such as psychosomatic illness, nervous breakdown, or suicide. These are all examples of ways people can avoid conflict by taking flight from the disagreement or situation. Flow. The third response to conflict is to flow with it. In this response, the individual does not view conflict as bad or negative, but as natural. Conflict results from the fact that no two people are exactly the same. As individuals disclose more of who they are and what they want, their differences become more apparent. Conflict is not a call to battle or a warning to the end of a relationship. Instead, conflict can be an invitation to listen, learn, explore, and grow with a loved one. Rather than fight or escape when disagreement arises, you might want to respond in a new way. Relax instead of tensing. Bend instead of stiffening. Listen instead of arguing. Get closer instead of pushing or running away. You can decide to flow with the disagreement, situation, or individual for a period to discover where it may lead. Let's examine some specific ways you can flow with conflict rather than fight or avoid disagreements in your relationships. Ways to flow with conflict. Flowing with conflict is the gift of not fighting, resisting, blaming, or leaving. It is the gift of accepting and bending with the current of disagreement for a period of time. Flowing with conflict can help a relationship to grow and even improve. 4 ways to flow with conflict are to remain silent, restate the speaker's complaint, validate the speaker's feelings, and agree with the speaker's complaint. Remain silent. Usually when the conflict begins, we immediately respond by defending ourselves or redirecting the blame back to the other person. We interrupt the person and deny or redirect blame before he can finish his first sentence. We don't even give the speaker a chance to state his grievance or complaint. Many times our immediate interruptions serve only to escalate the disagreement, inflame the argument, or increase the speaker's commitment to his position. You can respond very differently by remaining silent while your loved ones voice a complaint, regardless of your opinions or feelings about their remarks. By remaining silent, you can provide an opportunity for them to express their frustration or anger. You are detaching from your ego, your self-centeredness, or concern for your own well-being for this period of time and opening to their opinions and feelings. By choosing not to respond when an argument or disagreement begins, you are giving the gift of flowing with conflict. I love that. Restate the speaker's complaint. The second way you can flow with conflict is to prove that you understand the person's complaint, rather than immediately defending or attacking after you have remained silent for those initial moments. And given the speaker a chance to talk, you can continue to flow with conflict by restating the complaint. Use your active listening skills when you find yourself in a conflict. By paraphrasing the complaint to the person's satisfaction, you have provided your loved one with the opportunity to be heard and understood. It might be enough to let the complaint be aired and comprehended. Here is an example of restating a complaint. Tony, you always spend so much time at work. You never come home early, and I'm stuck here with the kids all day long. Betty, you'd like me to spend more time at home and less time at work? Question mark. The purpose of restating the complaint is not to solve the problem or declare your position. The goal is to simply restate the complaint so your loved one knows you understand what he is attempting to communicate. Validate the speaker's feelings. A third way you can flow with conflict is to validate your loved one's feelings rather than discredit or discount them. Earlier, we outlined the steps in active listening for feelings. In conflicts, the same process is extremely valuable. In addition to making certain that you understand the complaint, it is important to validate your loved one's feelings about the complaint. By validating feelings, we go one step further than merely reflecting a loved one's feelings. We confirm and support her feelings as being valid and legitimate. Remember, this process of flowing with conflict requires a spirit of giving and an attitude of other-centeredness, concern for the well-being of another person. It is not about you and your feelings at this point of the conflict. Your concern is for your loved one, and you can show this by validating his feelings. Here is an example of validating the speaker's feelings. David, you don't ever seem to ask me how I feel about how we should get out of debt. Chris, are you feeling angry that we don't talk about our finances? The purpose of validating the speaker's feelings is to let the speaker know that you understand the feelings and acknowledge the feelings as legitimate. There is no effort invested in negating or disconfirming the feelings. Your goal is to validate them. Agree with the speaker's complaint. You can really surprise your loved one by agreeing with the complaint being shared with you. There is usually some truth to any complaint or accusation a loved one brings to your attention, no matter how vehemently we would like to deny or dismiss the charge. You do not need to agree with the entire complaint, just the portion you can accept. Usually we deny the entire complaint or accuse the speaker of the same. But if you can really listen to what the speaker is saying and try to find some truth that you can agree with, the direction of the conflict can take an entirely new course. Here are a few examples of agreeing with the speaker's complaint. Robin, you're always late to every meeting. Shay, you're right. I am late to many of the meetings. Cindy, that was a foolish thing to do. I wouldn't ever do that. Sam, that was a pretty foolish thing to do. Edna, you don't listen to me when I'm upset. Vera, I really haven't listened to you like I want to. By agreeing with whatever truth there might be to the complaint, you can bring about a new and different pattern to your usual way of fighting or arguing. This alone may be effective in changing the speaker's feelings. I bet it is. The SLACK method for resolving conflict. That's SLACK method for resolving conflict. By remaining silent, restating the speaker's complaint, validating the speaker's feelings, and agreeing with the speaker's complaint during the initial stages of the conflict, you can create a supportive environment for discussing and resolving a conflict rather than resisting, attacking, or leaving. After you have established this supportive climate, you can try a technique I've developed called the SLACK method to resolve conflict. The SLACK method provides a win-win approach to resolving conflicts, one that involves negotiation and compromise. This technique works for serious conflicts as well as minor disagreements. The 5 steps to the SLACK method are sit, listen, ask, compromise, kiss. I've been teaching this technique in therapy and in relationship courses for more than 15 years, and it has been successful in helping people negotiate satisfying solutions to problems in a way that strengthens their relationships. Let's take a look at each step. Step 1, sit. The first thing you do when a conflict occurs is to sit down. Somehow a standing position gets us into combative stance and can often escalate the conflict. Try breaking this habit of standing. A seated posture will relax and center both of you. So sit down, So sit down. Take a load off your feet. You will be doing some serious work in a few minutes. If possible, retreat to a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. My wife and I go to the master bathroom. It has a lock on the door and the kids cannot get in. Agree on a time limit for the session. Usually 10 to 20 minutes is a reasonable amount of time for one session. You don't want to go more than 20 minutes because the effort involved requires a great deal of concentration and can be emotionally draining. Don't think you have to settle this once and for all in one session. Things take time. Be gentle on yourselves. Do not go more than 20 minutes. Before you begin step 2, take a minute or two to sit quietly and calm yourselves. Breathe deeply and evenly. Close your eyes. You may want to visualize a peaceful scene. I usually visualize Sea Cliff Beach near our home. Do whatever centers you. It will get you in the right frame of mind. Remember, conflict is an invitation to know your partner in a deeper way and strengthen the relationship. Keep your heart soft and your ears open as you enter step 2. Step 2, listen. The second step requires you to listen to your partner for 1 to 3 minutes without verbal interruption. Your partner can hold a pencil as a reminder that she has the microphone. During this time, your partner, 1, describes her perceptions of the issue. I see the issue as. 2, shares her feelings about the issue. I feel. 3, states her needs regarding the issue. I need. 4, reveals her fears about the issue. And I'm afraid that. You are not to interrupt in any way. You cannot talk. You cannot blame, judge, criticize, bring up past mistakes, or discuss another issue. All you do is sit quietly and listen to her. By remaining silent, you will avoid the single worst mistake in conflict communication, interrupting the speaker. As you are listening, remember to avoid any negative or critical behaviors, such as shaking your head, rolling your eyes, or scowling. These negative, nonverbal behaviors can discourage communication as much as any verbal criticism or negative remark. Yeah. When your partner feels she has finished, she will say, okay, let's go to step 3. Remember, you cannot talk until she gives you the okay. Step 3, ask. In the third step, you paraphrase or reflect your partner's statements from step 2. Remember this from gift 4. Ask the following questions to prove you understand her perceptions and feelings. Question 1, you see the issue as, and then let her respond. 2, you are feeling, and then let her respond. 3, you need, let her respond. And 4, you're afraid that, let her respond. The purpose of step 3 is not to give your side of the story, but to prove you are attempting to understand your loved one. You are trying to demonstrate that you have heard her perceptions and feelings of the issue. Many times, this alone is enough to change the dynamics of the situation. It is impossible to overemphasize how important it is for people to feel as if they have been truly heard and understood. This by itself is significant and casts a healing glow over the entire process. When your partner feels that you understand her perceptions, feelings, needs, and fears, she will give you the microphone and you can return to step 2 for your turn. Now you have the chance to share your perceptions, feelings, needs, and fears of the problem without your partner interrupting. Remember, now you have the microphone. After you have finished, you will say, okay, let's go to step 3, and your partner will ask you questions about your statements. When you feel your partner has accurately reflected all 4 of your statements, go to step 4. Step 4, compromise. Now that you and your partner have completed steps 2 and 3, you are in a position to better understand each other's feelings and concerns about the conflict. The next step is to find compromise. Before you compromise, you must each brainstorm 2 or 3 solutions you would be willing to try and then share them with each other. Brainstorming several solutions ensures that neither of you is too attached to one solution. Making a compromise is easier. When you share the solutions, do not evaluate or criticize. Simply listen to each other just as you did in step 2. You'll have at least 4 solutions to consider. Discuss the solutions to explore their strengths and weaknesses. Ask for clarification. You might both decide on one that is worth trying. If not, select your favorite solution from your partner's list. This lets your partner know you think at least one of her solutions is worthwhile. Your partner should also select the solution she likes best from your list. Try to compromise on a solution that lies somewhere between the 2 favorite solutions. Maybe you would both be willing to try one of the solutions for a period of time. Keep in mind, this is a tentative compromise. that can be modified or dropped if it does not work. Chances are that neither you nor your partner will get your number one choice, but you most likely will find a solution that you can both live with for a time. Remember, a win-win, not a win-lose, compromise is the goal of the SLACK method for resolving conflict. Also, set up implementation schedule at a time period to try the solution. When you have agreed on a solution and implementation plan, go to the final step. If you cannot reach a compromise in step 4 and you are running out of time or steam, take a break for an hour or a day, but go to step 5 anyway. Be gentle on yourselves. Many conflicts have taken months and years to develop. Give yourselves plenty of time to resolve or improve the situation. Go to the final step no matter how far you are from compromise. Step 5, kiss. End the session with a compliment or two to your partner and a kiss or a hug if you feel it is appropriate. Spend a few minutes discussing the strengths of the relationship and the things you would miss if it ended. Remember the 80-20 rule? Look and focus on the 80% of the relationship you can commend or compliment. That's the SLACK method for solving conflict. Give it a try the next time you find yourself in a conflict with a loved one. This technique provides a simple, constructive, and effective means for resolving conflict. Guidelines for resolving conflict. Whenever you attempt to resolve a conflict with a loved one, remember the following 7 guidelines. Keep the relationship in mind. Limit the conflict to one issue. Think of conflict as an invitation to grow. State fears, not ultimatums. Be flexible. Separate the behavior from the person, and be soft and slow. Keep the relationship in mind. While you are in a conflict, keep the relationship foremost in your mind. Very few conflicts are worth ending a relationship for, and you need to remind yourself of this fact as you try to solve your differences. One way I keep this in mind is to ask myself, would I rather be right or be in a loving relationship that could last forever? This question keeps whatever issue my wife and I are discussing in the proper perspective. In fact, this question is helpful in keeping any conflict in its proper perspective. Be flexible and spacious. A good relationship is worth all the effort in the world, and very few differences are important enough to end a loving relationship. Limit the conflict to one issue. One of the most common mistakes in attempting to solve a conflict is to bring into the discussion other areas of disagreement in the relationship. In the heat of an argument, it is tempting to bring up other problems. If you and your loved one are discussing whether to spend Thanksgiving at his folks or yours, do not slip in the fact that you don't like the dent in the car door he made accidentally with his golf club and his weakness for chocolates. Stick to one issue at a time. Focusing on a single issue will help you both find acceptable solution to your problem more quickly. Don't get sidetracked with other issues. While we are at it, do not bring up past mistakes either. We all have our favorite gripe or grudge about a loved one, and often it is tempting to bring up that issue when tempers are flying. Don't. Old baggage weighs down the conversation with unnecessary and counterproductive material. Think of conflict as an invitation to grow. Conflict is not something to be avoided at all costs. Conflict is an invitation to grow, to learn to listen to another person, to empathize, to negotiate, to compromise, to give up ground, and to become gentler with others and ourselves. Just keep in mind that all conflict is a chance for you and your loved one to examine your relationship more closely, to pay attention to one another's needs and wants, and to become a better friend than you are now. Because we are forever changing, relationships need to keep growing. Conflict provides an opportunity to enhance any relationship. State fears, not ultimatums. When you and your loved ones are communicating about conflict, be careful not to state ultimatums too quickly or too often. I believe we have a tendency to issue ultimatums too quickly during conflicts. Do it my way or else. Shape up or ship out. And if you don't let me talk, you'll be sleeping on the couch are some examples of ultimatums. In most circumstances, do ultimatums really improve our relationships? No. In fact, ultimatums accomplish just the opposite. They serve to cement your loved one's position even more firmly. They instill defensiveness and resentment in the relationship. Most times they are an unnecessary display of power. Reserve ultimatums for only the most serious circumstances. Rather than attempting to resolve a conflict with an ultimatum, try stating a fear you have about the conflict. For example, instead of telling your partner, either you drop your college class or I'll leave your suitcase on the doorstep ultimatum, you might say, I'm afraid if you get your college degree, you'll be bored with me and leave me. Stating a fear. Notice the big difference between the ultimatum the speaker issued in the first example and the fear he shared in the second example. The advantage of stating your fears instead of issuing ultimatums is that fear statements are easier to give up. You don't want to hold on to fear statements. If your partner responded, "Of course, I would never leave you. The reason I'm going to college is to become a better person for myself and for you," you would be more likely to give up the fear of your partner leaving than to enforce the ultimatum. Your loved one is more likely to come to your aid and dispel an unfounded fear you are feeling rather than line up for battle against your ultimatum. Be flexible. When you and your loved one are compromising, be as yielding as possible. We often view compromise as weakness and yielding as giving up or giving in, but nothing could be further from the truth. The finest, most satisfying, and healthiest relationships are characterized by flexibility. Separate the behavior from the person. In a conflict, we often tend to lump the behavior that is annoying us with the person doing the behavior. Instead of saying, "I get upset when you come home late," or "I feel rejected when you don't call me," we often criticize or condemn the person by saying, "You're a jerk," or "I hate you." A better reaction is to separate the person from the behavior you dislike. I have found it useful to distinguish between these categories by saying, "I love you, person, but I don't like it when you come home late," behavior. Or, "I really like you, person, and I feel rejected when you don't call me." I think that'll say behavior. When you don't call me, when you promised you would, behavior. This simple technique of communicating your feelings about the person and then stating your feelings about an action is very helpful in separating the person from the behavior. Be soft and slow. One of the most difficult things to do in the midst of conflict is to talk in a slow and soft tone of voice. This is one of the last things we want to do. Everything tells us to speed up, to tighten up, to gear up. Often our breathing becomes fast and shallow, our face becomes flushed, and our speech becomes rapid and loud. These nonverbal behaviors trigger similar responses in our loved one. Before long, the discussion turns into a heated screaming match, diminishing the prospect for a mutually satisfying solution to the conflict. You need to remind yourself to speak in a slow, gentle tone of voice. This will help keep the discussion on track and the atmosphere more supportive and relaxed. You will find it helpful to breathe deeply as you speak and listen. Don't hold your breath. Don't tighten your shoulders and neck. Just breathe deeply and evenly no matter what is being said. According to an old Japanese proverb, the one who raises his voice first loses the argument. Soft and slow, that's the secret. Conflict is a natural part of any long-term relationship. Try flowing with conflict the next time you and loved ones have differences of opinion or a struggle over options. By flowing with conflict rather than defending, fighting, or fleeing, you will be opening up an entirely new set of options and possibilities. Conflict can take you and your loved ones down a different, more positive path on your relationship journey. That's the end of that chapter, or gift. And the activities are 6.1, personal exploration, reflecting on a recent conflict. Recall a conflict you had with a loved one. Try to remember what it was about, your feelings, your response, and the outcome. Answer the following questions. What was the conflict? What were your feelings at the time? What was your response? Fight, flight, or flow? What was the outcome? Could you have flowed with this conflict? Exercise 6.2, practice giving. Receiving feedback on your conflict style. Ask a loved one who knows you well for feedback on how you typically handle conflict. Your goal is to receive information about your conflict style. Ask the following questions. 1. What is my usual conflict response style? Fight, flight, or flow? 2. How do you feel about my conflict response style? 3. How might I improve my conflict resolution efforts? Describe the feedback you received and your response to it. Activity 6.3 is practice giving, resolving conflict. The next time you and a loved one have a minor conflict, try using the SLACK method to resolve it. Keep in mind the 7 guidelines for resolving conflict as you work through the SLACK method. Describe your response to the SLACK method. What do you think? Pretty good, huh? I love how it talks about conflict as an invitation to grow closer with your partner or your friends or whoever you love. Not bad, huh? All right. That is gift 6 from Gifts from the Heart. The next one, gift number 7, forgiving others. Maybe even ourselves too. That's a big one. Thank you for being here for this chapter and gift as well. Remember, this is Gifts from the Heart by Randy Fujishin, 10 Ways to Build More Loving Relationships. I will see you for gift number 7, forgiving others. Oh, remember, think long and hard about this stuff.